Welcome to Bad Gear, the show about the world's most hated audio tools. Over the last few weeks it seemed like there was some Roland sponsorship deal going on, with one question remaining. Who is sponsoring whom? This curse is finally broken. I got hold of a Korg Poly-800 without having to take on a mortgage. It surprised me that this 1983 design masterpiece has become somewhat rare and expensive. I remember that a friend of mine had one in the early 0 years, and we could all agree that it was
the biggest crap ever taken.
The Poly-800 was the first fully programmable synthesizer sold for less than $1,000, and it was clearly aimed at budget-conscious players in need of a compact and lightweight instrument for stage performance and general awesomeness. Offering many top-of-the-line features, it caused quite a stir when it was released, and after many years of being mostly shunned by synth lovers, the Poly-800 seems to be having a comeback as a cool synth. Let's take a closer look. At the first glance, the Poly-800 is ticking all the boxes. Kind of. Just to make this clear, the instrument is not polyphonic as the name would indicate. It's paraphonic. The 8 voices share one analog filter. You can switch the filter envelope between re-trigger every time I touch a key and do nothing until I take my dirty fingers off the instrument. Another hot topic is the oscillator section, and I have already stashed some popcorn for the RDCO's analog oscillators discussion in the comments. Speaking of DCOs, Korg went with an organ-like additive approach plus noise, and I really like their quirky sound. There are 2 of them, and they can be stacked for fatter tones, which reduces the paraphony count to 4. The 3 envelopes for amplitude and filter are not simple ADSRs. They have a breakpoint slope stage 2, which makes them ideal for that 80s synth soundtrack evolving bass drone stuff. I am a big fan of the chorus. MIDI, on the other hand, is very basic. While the Poly-800 2 can be sysaxed,
Phrasing.
version 1 is limited to note, pitch bend, modulation and program change. The keypad is the classic 80s cheapo non-velocity stuff they put in most budget instruments back then. Korg implemented a chord memory that, of course, needs to be loaded with a major 7, and a gimmicky yet polyphonic MIDI syncable sequencer. Right enable buttons for both the sequencer and program memory can be found on the rear panel, which is a mild but constant PITA. You can back up your tones to tape, and a foot switch can be used to step through sounds, including but not limited to cheesy keyboard tones, brassy basses, mellow strings, and leads that would have made you the coolest kid at school. Operating the synth is easy, but not always convenient, and there are numerous mods to deal with the lack of physical controls. Needless to say that everything with a joystick is cool, there's a battery compartment, and I would say that the build quality already stood the test of time. I'm not so sure about the concept of the Kita though. The Korg Poly-800 made a lot of synth features we now take for granted available to a wider public. Is it still relevant today? You have already heard the synthesizer in our little intro tune. That sounds surprisingly grown up. I wanna know if it can hold its ground in a more minimalist arrangement. Wow, this is raw and dirty in a very pleasant way. Maybe a bit too dirty for some, but I like the overall character. I wouldn't mind the envelopes to be a bit faster and snappier though. The internal sequencer is limited, but totally usable, especially when synced to an external MIDI clock. Let's have some good and clean polymeter fun with FX pedals thrown in for good measure. Some quirky retro stuff. Nice. I wouldn't want to use the sequencer when playing live, but it's a nice idea generating machine when jamming in the studio. Tweaking parameters with the value buttons is not ideal, and I really missed some hands-on controls in this one. It is hard to resist the retro flair of the Poly-800, and the urge to produce yet another synthwave finale is getting stronger. I wanna know what happens if we try to take the whole concept to another level in this 1995 plus shipping retro kitsch Vienna cloud rap instrumental 80s trap ballad. The Korg Poly-800 is not the most inviting instrument. Pocket calculator aesthetics and a disturbing lack of physical controls are, quite understandably, not everyone's cup of tea. What is more, Korg had to cut corners in order to keep the synth affordable, with a single filter as the most prominent example. All that being said, I like this little keyboard a lot, and it is going through a renaissance for a reason. You can create sounds that have their own character and still trigger 80s nostalgia, even in some of us who might be too young to have actual memories of that decade. The Poly-800 can be considered the Karate Kid of synth, the nerdy underdog that lives up to his true potential in the end, maybe with the help of a little mod. Thanks for watching and see you next time! Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Feel free to like, subscribe, become a patron and leave a comment what other kind of gear you would like to see and hear on the show. Thanks to all my patrons for supporting the channel and welcome to the monthly vocoder shoutouts. We're going to start with Tier 4, thanks for watching, see you next time, and I want to celebrate that my original Microkorg gooseneck microphone has finally resurfaced. Tiers 5 and 6. Salsa Block Band asked me for whatever device sounds the strangest. I experimented a bit with a Nintendo DS TalkBox hack, as seen in the videos of Chet Deiske, but it seems like I have the wrong DS for that. I went with the strangest box I had around, the Red Sound Darkstar vocoder. Again, thank you so much for supporting the channel. See you next month.